Good afternoon, everyone. This is Karen Patterson, and we're going to go ahead and get started. I am an ERP strategy consultant with Revolution Group, and I think I know just about everybody on the call, and that we do work with most of you with Revolution Group, but just in case, I want to do a quick introduction of who we are. So Revolution Group was the first Plex partner way back in 2002. So we've been working with Plex for quite a long time. We've worked for quite a long time in the Honda supply chain, 20 plus years of direct experience in the Honda supply chain, but we also work in many, many other industries. Since our first implementation, we have grown our practice from basically one consultant to we now have 22 dedicated Plex team members serving the Plex community, and between our implementation, optimization, training classes, custom development, VP development, IntelliPlex development, we actually work with about 50% of the Plex customer base. So today we're going to be talking about a new tool set in Plex that's called DemandCaster. And DemandCaster is a forecasting suite that was recently purchased by Plex. It can be implemented as a standalone solution, but for Plex customers, it has been integrated into the product itself. So you're going to see some really nice tool sets today. This is in no way intended to be a technical presentation, but really it's just our effort to let our customer base know about the new and interesting things that are going on in the Plex community. This is really a very powerful new product, and we want to at least give you the tools to help you evaluate whether it's something you should explore further and put some framework around what it really takes to implement a tool like DemandCaster and a demand forecasting process. So as I noted, it's not a technical presentation. We will take questions at the end, but there's a good possibility that we're going to be putting those in a parking lot, and we'll gather up the answers and get back with everybody via an email after the call. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kirstin vanDuelmen. She is an ERP strategy consultant with Revolution Group. She's a highly experienced Plex consultant who is leading our DemandCaster practice. And also Josh Long on our team. He is a Plex SME and a business process specialist with Revolution Group.
Hi, everybody. This is Kirstin. So we have a very simple agenda. What we're going to do here for the next little while, I'm going to give you an overview of DemandCaster, what it does, and then talk about where it would fit in possibly for your organization, and then we'll talk a little bit about the overall implementation strategy. So the primary purpose of DemandCaster is to plan finished goods at this point. So the manufacturing and purchasing, ideally to optimize your inventory, customer service levels, et cetera, based on anticipated future demand. So it factors in a bunch of variables that are all either extracted from Plex or easy to set up, things such as lead time, safety stock, your forecasted demand, your historical demand volatility, and you can program in the desired level of customer service for each one of those. There are three basic core modules. There's the master production scheduling, which is the foundation, the basis of DemandCaster. That is the required module if you're going to go on DemandCaster. And then on top of that, you can add on sales and operations planning and distribution requirements planning. And I'll talk to each one of those in a moment. From just to get a bit better picture of how this would work, the master production system or the core system basically does forecast requirements planning at a top level. That will sort of generate a master production schedule, will provide planner actions, so recommendations, and you can also do capacity planning and look at analytics on the forecast and requirement planning screen. On the planner actions, it will allow you to do some job management, and those jobs, your firm jobs and that are within your planning horizon, will feed into Plex as jobs. And the ones outside of your firm horizon actually can update your customer forecast. And if you have that integrated into MRP and PRP, you'll see the future demand for that as well. So that's where, at this point, you would get your component demands and be able to run your MRP based off your forecast that you've got in your MPS system and DemandCaster. It will also give you recommendations for your finished good procurement releases, and we'll actually turn into releases in Plex, but those, again, are right at this point only for finished good or pass-through parts. The component part functionality is on the roadmap at this point. They don't have a firm date, but that's definitely in the works. If we take that one level up and we look at sales and operations planning, I'm going to back up one slide here. At the very top level here, we're generating this directly in DemandCaster as kind of a hands-on process, or it's being fed. I'll show you in a few moments, but there's various things that can feed that. If you go to the S&OP planning module, these take over that more manual process that you're doing in the MPS and makes it a more formal demand and supply planning process. That feeds an operations planning process and capacity planning, and this is also where you would get into distribution planning. Those all then, once it's approved and you guys everybody's comfortable with what the recommendations are, would create the master production schedule and requirements planning that feed into the MPS, the next level down. So the basic platform, the master production scheduling, I mentioned focuses on the finished goods requirement planning. It is at the part level, and it's done in units. So it will look at total Plex sales history and project the demand forecast to drive a supply plan. So this is not done by customer. There's no revenue, nothing. It's just an aggregated part forecast. It'll find a best fit algorithm and look at your historical demands to generate a good forecast going forward, or you can tell it how you want it to forecast forward. You can see that forecast against your capacity plan. So it does allow capacity planning in here, and you've got work center availability, and it will look at this whole plan based on your work and availability. I mentioned the planner action screen, so that's where you get your detailed recommendations for creating jobs, or if you need to transfer inventory from one location to another because you make it in multiple places and you need to ship from one, but you're out there, you can actually transfer inventory. It'll tell you where to transfer inventory from. And then those jobs and finished good purchase releases are pushed to Plex. It's all integrated, so there's not any difficult way of having to get them into Plex. They already are in Plex. And as I mentioned, Plex customer forecast is updated with the plan demand that is past the firm planning horizon. So this would be an example screen you would see for requirements planning. It's an item. Our item is called a widget here. And this would be the demand for all widgets, regardless of customer or location. And the screen is, shipping history and orders in the system, and then blue turns into, well, here's what we think you're going to do going forward. It does have capacity planning, as I said. It will take that plan, throw it against your capacity at each work center, and you can see here at the bottom, my mixing operation. It looks like it's very heavily loaded, but I don't have anything in my mixing 2 operations, so it gives me a chance to move jobs to balance things better. And then here's a sample of the planner action screen where it's telling you for each part, hey, this is urgent. You're about to miss shipments. You need to either purchase this or produce it or transfer it to make things happen. So you would check off that, yep, I approve all this stuff, or I don't approve, and I want to make changes, and then push it to push them to Plex. Sales and operations planning is a big major process. We're not going to get into a lot of detail here today on it, but we're certainly available to support you with that process in the future. But what it does is really kind of forces the organization to look at your financial plans and your business plans and your marketing plans and your sales plans, get everybody on the same page on those, and then using that will build your inventory plans and your build plans. Everybody's working off the same set of data, and everybody's accountable for those plans. So a quote here at the bottom: studies have proven that companies that are best at demand planning forecasting average 15% less inventory, 17% stronger perfect order fulfillment, and 35% shorter cash to cycle time while having a tenth of the stock outs of their peers. So having a really good process in place for this is excellent, and having a tool to support it, such as DemandCaster, can really help. So in the sales and operations planning add-on, the demand planning involves input and adjustment from sales and marketing. You can forecast at multiple levels, multiple different ways. So you can forecast by customer, you can forecast by part group. Changes roll up, from bottom up, top down, or middle out. And the nice thing is, if you're in an industry that does promotions, I know a lot of the aftermarket customers do, food and beverage does, you can pre-plan all your promotions and get the longer-term visibility of how that will impact your supply plan and how you're going to manage those. You can have events such as launches and revision changes that don't have, a good standard way of forecasting right now. That can all be put into DemandCaster, and will drive your plan in Plex. Sales and operations planning also allows you to look at revenue projections and do what-if analysis, so you can look at pricing in there. So once everybody agrees on the demand plan, you generate your supply plan, and those can usually be done one of two ways. You can either try to level load, so that you're minimizing the variation on your plant floor, but could result in variable inventory levels. Or you can do a more make-to-order, or what DemandCaster calls demand chase models. So you're making much closer to the actual demand and not carrying in as much inventory. So you're able to review these plans against inventory and capacity, and then make adjustments. And then there's an actual approval process that everybody goes through and says, yep, we bless this, this is the plan we're going to do, and then we execute it. And then there's good reporting on tracking the plan performance. So the demand plan, this is an example of that. Again, we have our widget, but now we have it at a specific customer level. So I can look at my products by customer or by part type. I can aggregate them all together, or I can split them all apart, look at it multiple ways. Again, the green is the history and the orders that are in the system, and then the purple here is my statistical forecast for that customer for that part. And we can run it at different levels. 5-pan based on what my forecast is. It would generate where this is what I think you need to make. It looks like it's trying to level load it a little bit here. And as far as the methodology for forecasting, it will actually use your customer shipping history and your order data from Plex and make a best fit forecast algorithm, or you can tell it which type of algorithm to use for your statistical forecast. So as I mentioned, for the S&OP module, you can forecast at any level and any way, and it will leverage the tables that we have set up in Plex, such as product groups or part types, however you want to do that. The way the data gets in, so it'll pull from Plex your historical sales data and shipping data. You can import customer forecasts if you're getting them from your customers, or you can integrate it from DemandCaster with platforms such as IHS, which is one of the automotive forecasting tools. You can have point of sale data integrated into the forecasting module. And another way, it's part of your data out of Plex, but EDI orders are the main way a lot of people, especially in automotive, will get their future orders and releases uploaded into Plex. There's 10 different forecast algorithms. It's kind of small here on the right, but I just want to show you the drop down of all the different algorithms that you can use. So depending on what your business is comfortable with, you can choose one, or as you can see here, it has auto-selected an exponential smoothing forecast based on the history. It looks at the data and says that would be the most appropriate one for us to use. And then because we often have questions around how to consume the forecast, there are 5 different methods, and I'm not going to get into all of them, but there are different ways we can tell DemandCaster to consume the forecast that's out there. Distribution requirement planning, that's another add-on. So this is the third one. And this one lets you look at your master production schedule and plan and optimize your production and inventory across a whole network of warehouses, manufacturing facilities, and distribution centers. So if you're getting into global operations, or you've got a bunch of PCNs where you've got different things happening, and where would it make sense to make this stuff based on our customer locations and transportation costs and so forth, this is a really neat tool. So the goal, obviously, is to reduce your costs of ordering and transporting and inventorying products and minimizing shortages. And this is using Plex defined, so by PCN, your plant-specific, part-specific lead times, transfer times, costs, bill of materials, and manufacturing processes. So if you make the same part at 2 different plants and they've got different run rates, they have different costs, there's different transportation lead times to customers, that will all pull from Plex. You don't have to do any of that setup in DemandCaster, and it will recognize that one PCN is a different location and take care of that accordingly. Excuse me. There are a bunch of analytic tools in DemandCaster, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on each one of these, but it will take a look at how you've been doing and recommend your stock levels, recommend reorder points. It will recommend whether it thinks you should stock an item or make it to order or purchase it to order. So it's just some nice tools, and from those analytics, you may decide to adjust your planning parameters to get better results. The reporting function is really nice in DemandCaster. There's obviously some standard reports, but custom reporting is something a lot of people are always asking about. And it works a lot like our IntelliPlex stars, but a whole lot easier. So it's just kind of like button clicks with what do you want on the reports, and then you can just export it. And you can also have it emailed or have them scheduled to run whenever you want and it's sent out. So that's a really nice tool. So is it right for you? The basic MPS tool, it's pretty simple to use if you're trying to forecast and plan parts, and it's good for you just need to know by part number, quantities you can send out. That's great. You can do statistical forecasting. You can use existing customer forecasts. It does do multi-PCN planning, but depending on how complex it is, you might want to move that up into more of an S&OP planning. But if you're a pretty simple operation, or you're kind of shipping to only 1 or 2 OEMs, and it's pretty straightforward what you do, the standard MPS will work great. S&OP process tends to be used more by larger companies, multi-PCNs, a little more complex. If you have distribution warehouses, you have a bunch of different distribution channels, and you also want to see revenue forecasting, that would drive you to go up to the S&OP process. If you've got only one ship to, and they provide you your forecast, excuse me, and your Plex customer forecasting tool is working for you, and you've got it integrated into MRP and PRP, and you're getting the information you need, you probably don't need DemandCaster. This DemandCaster takes you kind of to the next level and much more integrated forecasting and planning. So, as Karen mentioned, DemandCaster is now owned by Plex. It's fully integrated have it kind of pre-built in with the Plex connector. All the data points are already established in maps, so there's no long setup required for this. The only thing that's not available yet is BOM and component purchasing data. That is on the roadmap, as I mentioned. And once you get the module, your integration is complete. So we just wanted to stress this is not a big bolt-on or add-on even the way it was half a year ago or a year ago. It is a Plex product at this point. This slide is designed to kind of show you that you'll have one instance of DemandCaster, and your locations within DemandCaster are essentially your PCNs. So all the different activity you've got going on at various PCNs all feed into your one instance of DemandCaster, and this is what allows you to do that, cross PCN capacity planning and demand planning and distribution planning. So you don't need an instance of DemandCaster per PCN. You just have one instance of DemandCaster that will manage everything for you. So as far as the data flow goes, this is a little more complex, but just as an example, if you look at that middle box, the light blue ones, these are the things that are pulling out of Plex and straight into DemandCaster. So things like your locations, your product numbers and names, where they're located and how much you have in inventory, all your customers and your customer orders, your product groups, work center information, your routing information, any open jobs that are out there, and supplier. It does work for suppliers and purchase releases for finished goods, and eventually on the roadmap will be BOM items as well. So those all feed into DemandCaster, where you're maintaining your planning parameters and you're doing all your analysis. You can, it's generating a forecast that you can update, edit as you wish, and that's creating your production plan, and you're able to see your capacity requirements based on your forecast. Once you've done all that and you're looking at your recommendations, then you push the jobs kind of back into Plex, and it will also update your customer sales forecast. Then in Plex, that's where you're maintaining your master data, all your parts and orders and everything that you normally do in Plex. You continue to do it. It's just now also feeding DemandCaster. You'll still run MRP for component parts. You'll still run PRP for your subcomponent plan. You can schedule production as always in Plex, and looking at your capacity as well for components. So the key is, though, it's a great tool, but it's only as good as our process. So I'm going to turn this over to Josh now to talk a little bit about our process piece.
Thank you, Kirstin. So we understand to be successful with tools like DemandCaster, we have to first take a broader look at our current forecasting efforts, or even the lack of, to develop a strategy to achieve success with forecasting of the process. So the key to success with forecasting is within our strategy on how we execute the process to deliver to it. We should maintain a process and data-focused approach to our work, which is much broader than just the software. Quickly kind of go through these. At Revolution Group, we lead clients through these efforts by using the proven tool at DMAIC, which stands for Define, Measure, Analyze, Improve, and Control. So DMAIC is a plan of action to implement improvements within our organization. This data-driven strategy is a key element within Lean Six Sigma, but can be used as an independent tool too, for example, to implement a forecasting process. Within DMAIC, we first start by defining our specific goals and expectations with forecasting. Most importantly, at this step, we refine our goal for the project to ensure we are realistic in our scope. Being effective with forecasting can be a large undertaking, and we should build success by taking a small bite out of the entire process at one time. After we define our goal and team, we move quickly into understanding our current process by mapping out the flow of data and collecting our metrics together. Some of the metrics to determine how well we are at forecasting could be things like sales and shipments, inventory shortages, even our production capacity and efficiency reports, and our on-time delivery metrics. It's important once we're on the same page with those metrics, we then use the metrics, the data, and the process map to analyze them for areas of improvement. And identifying our internal and external strengths and weaknesses, at the same time taking the opportunity to identify waste and variation in our current process, the goal being to get to the root and develop actionable tasks for our process changes. These tasks become our plan of action. In this improved stage, we develop SMART goals and build accountability to get it all done. These SMART goals will include the implementation steps and tasks to launch tools like DemandCaster. By embracing technology, we can improve our effectiveness and efficiency with forecasting, and our work up front to define our goal, process, and metrics will ensure we are successful. The most important step in DMAIC, though, is control. As we move through the improved stage of the process, we need to build control throughout our strategy to sustain our efforts and investments, and even build upon them for future work and improvements by using document controls, training, and some monitoring actions and plans to ensure we're effective. So in short, using DMAIC will lead and guide continuous improvements with forecasting by developing a strategy to improve forecasting overall, by building our forecasting process, including our customers, suppliers, and our internal people. So part of that is also to successfully implement our tools like DemandCaster and sustain our investments of our resources with forecasting overall.
All right, so if you're going to be implementing DemandCaster, you know, obviously your best choice would be to do that through us. We really want to focus on process definition first. We want to make sure we're implementing the right thing in the way that you guys really need it. And so we'll spend a bit of time up front on that. The duration of that whole exercise will vary depending on, you know, how mature the customer is, how big you are, and how complex you are. So once we've really nailed down the upfront work, then the software implementation is a breeze, right? So then usually it's 1 to 3 months to implement, make sure everything's working right, and there's, I'll go through some of the steps on this next slide. So this is what we would think a typical project plan would look like. We would spend a little bit of time on current state evaluation, work on future process definition, and if you'll notice that last line, this is where we're already starting the continuous improvement. How do we get our future process well-defined, streamlined, and best practice? Once you've gone through that whole, what do we really want to look like in the future, then there's just a planning policy questionnaire we do for DemandCaster itself. It's very DemandCaster specific questions. And then you start the data verification process, making sure that what we're feeding into the system from Plex is good. We've all been through that during implementation, but a lot of times our data starts getting out of control over time. So this is a good chance to regroup and get your data cleaned up before DemandCaster. And then we're actually configuring and validating and making sure that the master production scheduling module is working correctly and giving you good results. Then if you're getting an S&OP, the demand planning, the supply planning, and the distribution planning requirements are all set up and giving you good results. And then there's some other more advanced stuff you can put in as well. But we really want to make sure throughout the process that we're improving things and that there's process controls being put in place to make sure this goes forward. So that concludes the meat and potatoes. We would love to help you guys implement this. So here's Molly's contact information if you want a more in-depth personalized demo or have any further questions on anything you've seen. So I think we're going to open for questions.
We have a couple questions. The first question is, for capacity planning, a cycle time is required. Does DemandCaster use Plex standard cycle time only, or does it have the ability to look at Plex actual cycle times?
I will ask that question to Plex. My understanding is that it will use the standard times in the process routing. But I don't know if there is an ability at this point for it to look up actuals. So that is one we can put through to Plex or DemandCaster.
Second question is, can you get inventory turns from the analytics reports?
Yes. Simple answer.
Awesome.
Yep.
I'll wait just a few minutes to see if we have any more questions come in.
Okay.
Does it pull the information from IHS for program, platform, vehicle, manufacturing plan, etc.?
Yes. Yeah. It will fully integrate all the key stuff that you tell it you want to pull in.
Is S&OP needed for capacity planning?
No, the capacity planning module is available for the standard master production schedule module. So that's included.
What if it's on multiple platforms?
Clarity.
Yeah, could you please clarify the question? Are we talking the IHS data?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on multiple platforms and IHS information.
I mean, I would imagine that it works the same way as it does in the customer forecast module in Plex. You would have to specify by customer part which applications it's on and which modules, so that it's pulling that information from Plex. As far as your setup and how you've got parts allocated in the customer part, that should all feed the way the DemandCaster works, but we haven't gotten into that much detail into the IHS integration, so we could dig into that some more for you. Any other questions out there?
Yes, there are.
There are.
What's the timeline for BOM integration?
I did not get a specific answer on that. I am just being told it's on the roadmap.
What about multiple building level demand in a single PCN? Any hope for a resolution for this?
Multiple building demands. So that a building would be a location within a location, which it will do that.
Okay. I wasn't clear on your response about inventory turns. Was that a yes?
Yes, that was a yes.
Does it allow you to a note on the data about changing demand?
I'm sorry, what was the question? Oh, yes, you can add notes to different, yes, you can add notes to fields in the forecast and in your job scheduling, if that's what you're asking.
Is there much setup in DemandCaster, or are the tables in Plex only?
Most of the data is in Plex. Actually, all the data is in Plex. DemandCaster has a lot of settings that we would need to go through, and that would be based on how you identify your process, what kind of forecasting algorithms you want to use, and then there's a bunch of settings on how do we want to do it. So it's very straightforward, and that's why most of the time is spent in the upfront planning stage. But the forecasting algorithms and how we want to do forecasting and how we want to do capacity planning and how we want to do requirements and distribution planning, that's all managed in DemandCaster. The data is managed in Plex.
It's broken up on here. I'm trying to figure out where the friction pieces are. Is there a recommended planning fence policy?
That's generally company specific. Planning fences are very similar to how you would do PRP and MRP now. You know, how many days or weeks out firm, how many days, weeks out forecast and plans. So that's going to vary by company and the industry, but it would be set up very similar to how you have it. Whatever's working for you or how you would like to do it in your MRP and PRP functionality now, we can set that up in DemandCaster.
And the question always comes down to, what is the price?
Oh, I do not know. My understanding is this will be a subscription-based pricing, just like whenever you get another module in Plex. So that would be negotiated through Plex based on your subscription, and my understanding it will be a percentage of however they calculate your subscription now.
Give it just a few more seconds here to see if any more questions pop up.
I'm trouble hearing that buzz we're hearing.
Any other questions coming through? Nothing else?
Yep, no.
Oh, a couple more questions.
Actually, I can answer this one. Can we get a copy of this presentation? Yes, the presentation will be emailed. A link to the presentation on our website will be emailed out to everyone probably Monday afternoon or Tuesday morning. So look for that in your inboxes.
Okay, I think that wraps up our questions. As I said, if you would like any further information, please reach out to Molly at the email or phone listed here, and we'd be happy to assist further. We're pretty excited about this tool. It really works nicely with Plex, and I think it's got a lot of potential to help a lot of customers out there. So just let us know. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you for your time and your attendance.